Hey everyone, it's Kajani with another episode of The Crafter's Corner, a video series dedicated to crafting and gathering in Final Fantasy XIV. In today's video, I will discuss the economy that revolves around the release of a new Savage Raid tier and the potential impact to the economy due to the upcoming changes to the release schedule. If you don't know by now, the developers intend to release the next tier of the Pandemonium raids 1 week after patch 6.2 is released. This is different from how they normally do things, as the raids are normally released the same day as the patch. The reason for the change is to give players time to enjoy other content released on the day of the patch instead of rushing directly into the raid tier. In Live Letter 71, the devs stated that they understand how important the release of a Savage Raid tier is to the overall economy of Final Fantasy XIV. Based on the feedback that they've already received, they will be monitoring the markets to see how the delay will affect things. The goal of the video is to give you some perspective on the economy surrounding a Savage tier, along with some expectations if you are considering trying to make Gil when this tier is released. So let's get started. The economy surrounding the release of a Savage Raid tier revolves around the introduction of new high-end crafted gear, raid food, and potions. High-quality crafted gear is a must-have since it can be overmelded, basically giving it better stats than anything you can get at the start of the tier. If you are serious about raiding in Final Fantasy XIV, you don't step foot into the new raid without a shiny set of high quality crafted raid gear. Since the raids were normally released at the start of the patch, the new gear would sell like crazy at ridiculous prices, and since you had to slap a bunch of materia into the gear to overmeld it, the release of a tier also drives the market for battle materia. The gear, raid food, and potions aren't the only things that will be selling like hotcakes. Any and every material used to craft those items will also sell really well. This is going to include crafting materials gathered from legendary nodes, aether sands, common crafting materials, or materials purchased using battle currency or purchased using crafting scripts. For crafters and gatherers, players will have to gear up to craft and gather all of the new stuff. This is going to drive the market for all the mats to craft that gear, crafting and gathering materia, and that one random fish that is released just to craft high-end crafting and gathering food. The gil making doesn't end after the first few weeks of the tier. As demand for gear declines, you can still make consistent gil off of potions and raid food as raiders continue with their progress or go for re-clears. Eventually, there will be a time where the market hits a lull, but about 2 months before the release of the next set of Savage Raids, you can see an uptick in demand for food and potions. This is primarily due to the weekly gear restrictions for loot from the raids being removed, and a lot of players use this as an opportunity to get into Savage Raids. Another factor that drives the prices for food and potions is that statics tend to get back together before the next tier in order to shake off rust and get ready for the next set of raids. Then you have the set of true endgame players revisiting the fights just for glamour. And you can't hate on that, because being best in slot, that's temporary, but the glamour, that lasts forever. So how will the delay affect the economy in Final Fantasy XIV? Will it cause pandemonium on the market board? Will it knife through the deep profits crafting mains are used to making? Well, the short answer is yes, and because of the delay, you can expect to hear wild shrieks from the player base that are used to making gil when a new Savage Raid tier is released. If you paid attention to the market board when the Pandemonium raids were released a week after patch 6.0 was released, your spider sense is giving you a warning about what is about to happen. There will be a lot of gear on the market board with no one in a rush to purchase it. The delay is going to give players more time to farm the new extreme weapons that should be at a slightly higher item level than the crafted weapon. If you are in a static, it should be no problem to get all 8 weapons for the crew, especially with extremes dropping coffers now. It will also allow players an extra week to grind tomes that can be spent on 1 or 2 pieces of tome gear that will definitely be at a higher item level than the crafted gear. With those options, you can save a lot of gil just by grinding out content. And even if you don't want to grind out content, due to the circumstances, you will be able to gear up without spending as much gil as you would as previous expansion. The delay is great if you are a buyer because it takes away the immediate demand for gear, thus dropping prices significantly. With releasing a raid tier 1 week after a patch likely becoming the new normal, what is the solution? As I stare into the abyssos, I have a lot of questions but not a lot of answers. Ultimately, I am eager to see what the devs will do, if anything. All I know is that if you are looking to make gil this tier, you will need to get creative and don't overly rely on selling high-end gear to make gil. This is because the gear market is primarily infested with bots. So hopefully after this video, you have an understanding of the economy that surrounds a release of a Savage tier, and you can make some gil in the process. That will be it for this episode of the Crafter's Corner. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace.